107.3 FM.
Hello, good evening, welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live on news about Desawe Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. I am Alfred Ocansey.
My name is Beatrice Adu.
This evening here on Hot Edition, Trade Minister K.T. Hammond lays controversial cement legislative instrument in Parliament. We're live in Parliament later on the bulletin and also some reactions to this development.
Also on this program, latest poll by Global Info Analytics suggests the 2024 presidential race is tightening following a nationwide tour by the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
This evening here on your Election Command Center, multi-sectorial team comprising the Ghana Health Service National Malaria Elimination Program, Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research, strong 3 districts in the Eastern region over invasion of malaria causing some rare insects and also some illnesses there. We'll give you an update on that shortly. Plus, ambulance case judge Justice Efiasewa, 4 others recommended for the Supreme Court. We'll give you details of that, plus some reactions from the courts today as the prosecution ends its cross-examination of the third accused in this ambulance trial, Richard Jakpa. We have reactions from that court hearing, which ended not too long ago. We'll give you details of that shortly here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Grace Samoa Ajiman is here. A summary of the news. Grace?
Yes, Alfred. A latest poll by Global Info Analytics suggests the 2024 presidential race is tightening following a nationwide tour by the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. The poll shows that Dr. Bawumia has narrowed John Mahama's lead in the poll by approximately 3% compared to the April 2024 poll. JDM now leads Dr. Bawumia 51.1%, 38.2%, Alan Kojo Tremateng 5.3%, Nana Kwame Bediako, also known as Cheddar, 4.6%, and others nearly 1%. The other story is the Civil and Local Government Staff Association, CLOGSAG, has declared a nationwide strike despite its meeting with the National Labour Commission tomorrow. CLOGSAG is demanding the implementation of its new salary structure, which has delayed for over 2 years. Executive Secretary of CLOGSAG, Isaac Bampo Adu, said this when he addressed a news conference in Accra today. And the Gaman Chakim Takite coach to the third joined forces with the Greater Accra Regional Minister, Daniel Nee Titus Glover. The mayor of Accra, Elizabeth Saki, and other leaders to clean the capital city, Simpe Manchani and the II, speaking on behalf of Gamanche, expressed gratitude to subjects for coming out to support the exercise. That's it for the summaries.
Great, so much, man. Thank you so much. There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Let's start off our journey in the courts today because, as it happened, the prosecution ended their cross-examination of the third accused in this ambulance trial, Richard Jakpa. And the cross-examination of the witness was the 4th time he has answered questions from the prosecution. Richard Jakpa has been cross-examined by 3 different state attorneys who have inquired from him his personal involvement and the role of his business, Jakpa at Business Limited, in processes leading up to the transaction prosecutors say has caused the state to lose some 2.37 million euros. Now, today, there was a live coverage of or telecast of this third accused, that's Richard Jakpa's cross-examination by the prosecution earlier today. Now, I'm going to take you back into the courtroom and just hear some excerpts of that live coverage of the proceedings, which ended not too long ago with the cross-examination of Richard Jakpa, the third accused, by the Attorney General Godfrey Yeboadame in court.
In compliance with the the preconditions in the LC. And those preconditions have been agreed by both parties as the only condition for payment.
As for the 315, we are not going beyond it. But he also has to, you see, you were the one who gave him the...
Yes. The main figures are there, opening balance and closing balance.
No,
on the same page.
You rather, because you've not told him to look at any specific date.
No, I did. 25th November. That was my first question. That please look at it BD. You see that it notes at the date the payment dates basis account, which was 23rd November 2014. Is that not correct?
And my lord, I answered by saying
That is so.
that no. I answered by saying
But then you later said no.
Yes.
Okay, second thought.
second perusing of the document. It's clear here that on the 25th November 2014,
It is clear that on the continue, please.
on the 25th November 2014, there was no payments to BC's accounts. It was opening bank accounts.
Let me see. Can I take it? I told you to
I've underlined that for you.
the tag, use the little color.
It was an opening balance of 15 point something million euros. Opening balance. And various charges in the bank of smaller amounts, $10,000, $8,000, $3,800 euros. My lord, after deducting all these small expenses, you come to 6.64. It's closing balance. Booked funds. 14.01 million euros and a few cents. That was the closing balance. This is at Ghana International Bank, the LC account, and not transferred to Big C. He doesn't understand this document.
You do not, if you deduct the first 50 million, if we deduct the first 50 million, 013, if we deduct the original amount of 15,013.986 minus the closing balance, which is 14.
So these are portions of that live telecast of the cross-examination of Richard Jakpa, the third accused in this ambulance trial. And just bear in mind that this is the last, or what just ended in court today, was the prosecution concluding the cross-examination of Richard Jakpa. So that's it for Richard Jakpa's cross-examination by the prosecution, the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, and the Director of Public Prosecution, all taking turns to also cross-examine him over the period. Now, this Sami Jemfield, the National Communications Officer of the NDC, after the court hearing earlier today, also reacting to it. We'll hear from the Deputy Attorney General shortly, was also been speaking to journalists after the court hearing today. But first of all, let's take a listen to Sami Jemfi.
You're still on the pause.
And we'll cross over to Sami Jemfi now shortly to give us an update on what exactly their proceedings and observations in court are.
Fit for purpose. Today, Jakpa has settled the matter. Because he's pointed us to exhibits before the court that some of us were not even aware of. That the ambulances were never intended to be used. I said this on Newsfile some time ago and people did not understand. Because you have ordered for ambulances, the supplier has supplied the ambulances and says, I'm not done with my work. Your duty is to clear them for me because it's a CIF transaction. park them at a safe place. I will now come and install the medical accessories, train paramedics, and hand them over to you. If you use it, you avoided the warranty. On what basis do you conduct post-delivery inspection on ambulances that have not been handed over to you and make a conclusion that they are defective when the ambulances have not been completed and handed over to you? You see the mischief. And JACPA exposes them that the medical accessories have been shipped. They were shipped in October 2016, arrived at Tema Port November, cleared. The container has been emptied. The container now is in China. Akufo-Addo, Bawumia, Dame and his people, the MPP, they've taken custody of the accessories. We don't know where they are. When what they are required to do is that once you take custody of the accessories, you must inform Big C to come and install. Now, what J accessories now, you won't tell them to come and install. Who is causing financial loss? For 7 to 8 years, where are the accessories? In order for them to contrive this baseless case against Ato Forsen and persecute him, they have hidden, concealed the medical accessories. And Salam, you and your colleagues here, go to the Ministry of Health. They cleared accessories. These are taxpayers' funds. Ask them, where are the accessories? We need accessories. Let us fix them into the ambulances and use it. We need ambulances. You see, who buys an ambulance off the shelf? This is right. Ask anybody who buy the ambulances that have Ocansey bought. Did they buy them off the shelf? They bought the vans from Mercedes. And the accessories came in years after. Almost 2 years before they installed them. Because an ambulance is a tailor-made vehicle. You don't go to any manufacturer, Mercedes, and Mercedes will say this is an ambulance. No, you buy it, you get accessories and all that, then you install. That is what they have even done. So please, the mischief has got to stop. And it was very sad at some point seeing Godfred Ame begging for time, misquoting his own exhibits, miscounting days and all that. It was so sad. And even though we are not here to defend JACPA, we are here to solidarize with the the minority leader. I cannot but sympathize with Mr. JACPA.
So that's Sami Jemfe, who is the National Communications Officer of the NDC, after the court proceedings earlier today. Now, the Deputy Attorney General, Alfred Ocansey Beatrice, also had this to say in reaction to some of the issues that Sami Jemfe indicated, plus a defense of the Attorney General.
Honorable Attorney General is an astute lawyer. He's a well-read lawyer, a revered lawyer. He knows his stuff. And so if he decides to say that he's a match fixer, I don't understand him. Go to the law reports, go to Supreme Court of Ghana law reports, and look at the case that he's done at the time that he was doing private practice. And from 2016 to date, I can say without any fear of equivocation that if you look at the ages that we have in Ghana, if it's not the best, he may be one of the best when it comes to his courtroom appearance. And look at international arbitrations. An Attorney General who leads his team to go on international arbitration and win cases internationally, not local. So if you say local champion, what does it mean? An Attorney General who is able to boost the staff strength of the ministry, giving them the training such that now we do not pay millions of dollars to external solicitors. Only few of them. Most of the cases that we have on arbitration, he leaves. So does it mean that if he goes outside to fight those cases, he also goes there to fix matches? It doesn't make sense if you say that he fixes matches.
So that's the Deputy Attorney General, the Godfred, that's Alfred Ocansey Beatrice, indicating what the Attorney General has been doing over the period. And also, he had a response to Richard JACPA in court today, indicating that they would have a lot to prove going forward when they file the details of their case.
Once they guaranteed that there was going to be a judgment date,
it was captured in the AG's advice.
The AG's advice was to the effect that they must go by the dictates of the contract.
Part of which says that if you don't comply,
the AG's advice, you have no problem with it. It was properly given, but they were advised to go by the dictates of the contract. What were the dictates? Supply ambulances. They do go by that. So I'm not being judgmental, but look at that's it. The contract was about how we were supposed to pay. Did they comply with it? I'm not going to be judgmental. So these are some issues in court that the court definitely make a pronouncement on. So I'm not going to give. We have done our side of the matter, and we think what we have done so far is to our satisfaction. We're now going to leave it to the judge. In our addresses, we highlight the salient areas for the judge's consideration. Richard Jakpa is an ex-serviceman. He was in the witness box, just like any other person. He gave his evidence in chief. We cross-examined him. We came out with documents that we had on him. I will end it here.
Well, that's the Deputy Attorney General for Tiawa ending it there on Richard Jakpa. But guess what? After the court hearing today, Richard Jakpa also had a few words to share with journalists. Take a listen.
You all realize that the Attorney General and all his team, they were comprehensively demolished by the evidence adduced in court and the explanations I gave to the court. You realize that they were confused and they didn't know which next question to even ask. And they were having difficulty even adding mathematical figures together. It was all demonstrated as a clear sign of ineptitude and incompetence on the part of the Attorney General in presenting this case to the court and the evidence they brought. In fact, the evidence they brought were evidence that were very, very irrelevant. I say so because they brought evidence of years prior to 2016. And Honorable Alessandro Befia, the last minister of the NDC government, had dealt with all the implementation hiccups of this ambulance problem issue. In fact, he has sent a team to Dubai to go and negotiate all the implementation problems that were occasioned right from 2012 to 2016 before he left office. In fact, the team that led the delegation for the dispute resolution, which is grounded in the contract, was led by Professor Ahmed Zakaria, the CEO of the National Ambulance Service. And they came out with an addendum. An addendum is founded on clause 23 of the contract, which is amendment. And no amendment or anything outside the contract can be valid unless it is signed by both parties. And this is what the both parties agree to. So when they send their team to Dubai to go and negotiate on the implementation difficulties, which is normal in international contracts, especially in manufacturing of such nature, when they are custom made. Because ambulances are not manufactured on the shelf for you to go and buy. Like the way you go and buy a Land Cruiser, you go and buy, they're already manufactured. No. Ambulances are made to specification of the purchaser. So they have to buy all the accessories from around the globe, bring them together, and with delivery schedule, manufacturing schedule, to put them together. So when they do it and in the contract says that you have to come for pre-shipment inspection, to come and check and be sure that what you signed for is what has been produced. And you decide that, oh, I don't care, I will not go and inspect, of an international contract. And you think that by refusing to go and inspect, the contract is ended. You must be living in a wonderland. The manufacturer will proceed to ship their products to you. Because in the contract, there's also a clause. If one particular area is breached, it does not prevent the other areas from being implemented. So if you have waived your right to inspect, it does not stop the supplier from fulfilling other obligations in the contract. And also, the supplier used their own money, loans they took from banks, to manufacture. And you only secured the transaction with an LC, with condition precedent for the supplier to meet before he can be paid.
That's the third accused in this ambulance trial of the case of Dr. Kesla Toforcing also being together with Richard Jakpa, facing trial for causing financial loss to the state of some 2.3 million euros. Now, this is the end of the prosecution by the cross-examination by the prosecution of Richard Jakpa, the third accused in this ongoing ambulance trial case. He dismissed earlier the claim that he received some 50% of the 2.3 million euros paid under the ambulance contract. According to him, he received no such amount adding that the claim by the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice, Godfrey Yeboah-Dame, is false. And he made this statement together with others that you just heard during the cross-examination earlier today. Now, this case has been adjourned to July 11, where, as happened in court today, Big C will be cross-examined virtually. The company in question will be cross-examined virtually. So we'll keep an eye on that and see how things play out here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Now, an issue related to not this Richard Jakpa or the ambulance trial case, but the trial judge on this case. The Chief Justice, Her Ladyship Gertrude Tukono, has asked President Akufo-Addo to nominate 5 judges to the Supreme Court. Amongst them is Justice Ifiasewa Asariboche, the current judge presiding over the Atofo trial. I'm talking about this ambulance purchase trial of causing financial loss to the state. Now, the 4 other judges are Justice that's the Justice Sarah Pamela Granting, Justice Edward Amwako Asante, Justice Eric Bafo, and Justice Angelina Mensah Homea. Now, this is what we do know. We have a copy of that letter that was addressed to the president with the heading Proposal for Appointment of 5 Judges to the Supreme Court. It reads, I write to respectfully request that the following judges be appointed to the Supreme Court of Ghana. Her Ladyship Justice Angelina Mensah Homea, as the names I ran through. And guess what? The 5th on this list of the letter that we have a copy of, if you go on our Facebook page at 3FM927, we'll put a copy of that letter shortly, dated the 30th of May 2024. And according to the last paragraph of this letter, which was authored and signed by the Chief Justice, Justice Asante, is one of 5 of these judges being requested of by the president for elevation to the Supreme Court. His term of office at the ECOWAS Court ended on 31st of July 2022. He was requested to remain at post on account of the withdrawal of Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso from the community. His current tenure is expected to end in 2026 or earlier, when he is expected to return to Ghana's judiciary. Now, this letter and this request by the Chief Justice is what has generated some conversation and reactions, and one such person who has some dissenting views about this request by the Chief Justice of the President to have some 5 judges be considered or nominated for the Supreme Court is Professor Kweku Azar. If you go on his Facebook page, he's written that the Chief Justice, this letter of a request to the President to appoint the 5 judges to the Supreme Court does not go according to the law, or is not consistent with the dictates of the Constitution. Now, he quotes Article 144(2) of the 1992 Constitution, providing that Supreme Court justices shall be appointed by the President acting on the advice of the Judicial Council in consultation with the Council of State and with the approval of Parliament. This process, he says, ensures that the selection of Supreme Court justices is collaborative and impartial, involving multiple stakeholders to preserve the independence and integrity of the judiciary. Article 144(2) does not, according to Professor Kweku Azar's post on Facebook, name the Chief Justice in this appointment process. Thus, when the Chief Justice proposes names directly to the President, it undermines this process, thereby compromising the constitutional framework designed to prevent undue influence and maintain judicial impartiality. While the Chief Justice is the chairman of the Judicial Council that advises the President, the council consists of various members such as the Attorney General, the justices from different courts, representatives of the Ghana Bar Association, and other legal and non-legal members. And this is the point that he raises, that to the extent that it is the prerogative and the sole responsibility of the President to appoint the Supreme Court justices or judges as per the or in consultation with the Judicial Council, it is his view that the Chief Justice's proposal or the request to the President for these 5 judges to be considered for the high office of Supreme Court judges does not agree specifically with the dictates of the law. It's something that we'll come back to shortly. We'll have a private legal practitioner joining us to have a conversation on this matter, and also the representative of the Office of the Attorney General will be joining us on this matter to have a conversation on this. Let's go to Parliament now and talk about what's happening with the cement legislation.
Indeed, some legal issues, and the Trade and Industry Minister Katie Hammond has laid the controversial cement legislative instrument in Parliament. The LI has subsequently been referred to the subsidiary Legislation Committee. Now, this is despite a boycott by cement manufacturers during a stakeholder meeting on Monday, July 1. The members expressed disappointment and dissatisfaction, asserting that the meeting was intended to be a private closed-door session. The move comes amidst growing concerns over escalating cement prices, which have surged to an average of 105 Ghana cedis per bag. Listen to the Trades Minister talking to journalists shortly after discussions on this.
Of nationwide strike. Declaration of nationwide strike in consonance with our letter number BA 15 volume 2 dated 21st June 2024, indicating our intention to proceed on nationwide.
So you rather heard the representative of the cement manufacturers speaking earlier about this. We'll bring you that Katie Hammond sound when he spoke to journalists in Parliament shortly after that LI was laid. But we can cross over to the House now, where we do have Komla Kluche, our parliamentary correspondent, on the line to bring us the latest from there. Komla, if you can hear us.
The price reporting to the committee, and if that is the case, Mr. Speaker, the advice is that it's no longer a controversial issue, so it can go. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. The bill is duly presented. It's referred to the Committee on Constitution, Subsidiary Legislation to consider and report.
So you rather heard the interaction in Parliament, Alfred, and this is something that's certainly going to go on for some time after this has been laid on the floor.
Indeed, and we have the Cement Manufacturers Association have also been talking about how they're also going to resist this whole idea of this LI. And we understand there was supposed to be a meeting at the ministry earlier today that the cement manufacturers, according to the minister, decided to boycott, and they don't want to be part of that engagement. The cement manufacturers say it is not true. They were indeed invited, but as at the time that the meeting was taking place, nobody notified them that the meeting was ongoing. So they were in the Trades Ministry building, awaiting a call to be part of a meeting, which apparently had been ongoing while they were seated at the reception.
Today
to be called for that said meeting. This was yesterday, and then this morning as well they were called in, and so this is an issue that is playing out in a very, very interesting way.
Well, the minister has his own narrative of what actually transpired yesterday.
See, and we'll get through to Komla Kluche shortly to give us an update of what we just heard and what's happening right now, especially because of what even members of the Trade and also Tourism Committee of Parliament that is going to consider this bill, or this LI for that matter, even before it gets for a debate or a conversation at the plenary, have to say, because the ranking member on that committee, who's a Bamboy member of Parliament, had indicated that they are going to demand that extensive consultation is made on this bill, which has been one of the major issues that the cement manufacturers have had, that they were not consulted. The minister says he's not obliged to consult them in putting together this LI. So it gives you an idea of how the coming days will look like on this. It's some 28 minutes to the top of the hour. 6 p.m. here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also live on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Let's keep an eye on some of the issues happening, and ahead of the elections already, the Global Info Analytics have put out another poll. Indeed, this is the latest poll by Global Info Analytics suggesting the 2024 presidential race is tightening following this nationwide tour by the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. What do we know?
The poll also shows that Dr. Bawumia has narrowed John Mahama's lead in the poll by approximately 3% compared to the April 2024 poll. Now, John Dramani Mahama now leads Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia 51.1% to 38.2%. Alan Kwadwo Tremantin 5.3%, Nana Kwame Bediako, popularly known as Cheddar, 4.6%, and others nearly 1%. The poll also shows that in the event of a runoff, John Mahama is on 52%, whilst Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is on 42%, and 6% of voters are undecided as at the time the survey was conducted. Now, in what could be a shock to the political duopoly in Ghana, the poll also shows that Nana Kwame Bediako is making some significant gains in the Central, Ashanti, Eastern and Volta regions. The race also shows a dramatic shift in the Central region during the period, as John Mahama dropped from 51% in April 2024 to 39% in July. We're joined on the line now by Musa Dankwa. He's Executive Director of Global Info Analytics. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Quite interesting figures you're putting out there, but tell us how you arrived at these figures.
This is just a mere opinion poll that sampled 7,900 voters' views across all the 15 regions and from 111 constituencies. And we asked them their voting intentions alongside many other issues. So what we just did was to aggregate those views and present them as such.
But having done that, though, you are also saying that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is making some gains. Aside from the tour, which you quoted in your survey, what other factors do you think are contributing to he cutting into Mahama's lead?
No, if you look at Bawumia's lead or his improvement in the polls, it came largely from Alan Kyerematen, because Alan Kyerematen, before this poll, had the support of 7% of MPP supporters. Now that number is down to 2%, and that is very significant, down 5%. And that 5% went to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. So it's a realignment of Alan voters back to Bawumia. And again, a small improvement among floating voters, which saw him go up by 3%.
I'm just looking at the executive summary and the last point you made, which is that economy, jobs and education remain the three most pressing issues that will influence their decision, as in those you included in your survey. Economy, 73% of respondents said is very important to them. Jobs, 69%, and education, 50%. How do you think this contributed to the result you got at this time when we are still dealing with all these issues at hand?
Yes, indeed. If you look at those who said economy is their number one issue, most of them are voting for Mahama. Those who said job are their main issue, they are voting for Mahama. And those who said education are voting for Mahama. So effectively, unless they see improvement in the economy and the job situation, it's going to be very difficult for Mahmoud Bawumia to win on the basis of these two items remaining top two.
Now, the shocking one, Nana Kwame Bediako, popularly known as Cheddar, getting 4.6. How is that?
Yes, he is quite double his performance. In fact, he is the greatest beneficiary of the last year's poll, because he doubled his performance compared to April. And this came from his performance in the central region, quite remarkable in central region. And also in the eastern region, where he is now on 11%. He was 5% before in April, now 11%. When you look at the central region, he was on 1% or so in April, now on 13%. So these are the things that are really driving his numbers. He's doing very well among first-time voters and younger voters.
I mean, we have less than 6 months before the December general election. How do you anticipate things could change beyond what you've put out right now? Is there a possibility we could see significant change ahead of the elections?
You know, the race is quite stable in the sense that if you look at the numbers that are changing, 1% here, 2% there, you don't see a huge movement in the numbers. What remains to be seen is whether the campaign that will be launched from now onwards will shift a lot of minds. But bear in mind, close to 80% of them said they've already made up their mind.
Mr. Dankwa, the 3% gain of Dr. Bawumia, is it a direct loss to John Mahama?
No, if you look at Alan's numbers, it has gone down by almost 2.3%. Most of that number went to Bawumia. And a little from Mahama goes to Bawumia as well. But I think Mahama's loss went to Cheddar.
John Mahama's loss went to Cheddar. You mean Nana Kwame Bediako?
Kwame Bediako.
I see. That's pretty interesting. And who these persons who drifted from John Mahama to Nana Kwame Bediako, what were the reasons they gave?
No, you know, we don't ask them reasons. This is not a quantitative research. This is quantitative opinion poll. Those who want to reason can go back there and find out why.
I see. And then also there's, and maybe finally before you go, that area of what happened in April and then what is happening now. What indication that this does it give you? This is 5 months to the election. I mean, all things being equal.
You know, for me as a pollster, it is normal for someone to see a bump in the poll after going through campaign of 16 regions. If Bawumia had gone around and he didn't see any bump in the poll, then that would be a disaster. So we expect this to happen. Now, the question is, will it remain stable or it will decline or it will move up? Time will tell.
Indeed, and time will tell. If you kind of hold on a bit for me, Dr. Jonathan Asante-Ocho has been listening to you. He's senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, a political analyst, joining us. Dr. Asante-Ocho, appreciate your time here on Hot Edition. So we're now getting the details of this latest survey by Global Info Analytics suggesting the 2024 presidential race is indeed tightening. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, after that nationwide tour, inched up by some 3%. John Mahama still, according to Global Info Analytics, in the lead with some 51.1%. But then again, you see Nana Kwame Bediako, who according to the Global Info Analytics Executive Director, who is actually on the line listening to you right now, Musa Dankwa, says Nana Kwame Bediako is the biggest gainer in this latest poll, and the primary source of his increase in the people who drifted to him is John Mahama's loss. How does that strike you?
Well, let me say good evening to your listeners and good evening to the CEO of Global Info Analytics. I must say that if you look at the polling that he's been doing over the period, they appear more scientific to me than other polls that have been, being bandied about. I think that all what this means is that it is quite refreshing in the sense that Dr. Bawumia went out there after Mr. Mahama had gone around the country. And so that one appears more fresh in the minds of the electorate. And the moment I heard that Dr. Bawumia had inched up closer by 3 percentage points, the only thing that came to mind was the fact that could it be because he went round, and then only for me to read the executive summary, Global Info Analytics, and then that was a very, indicator. So I wasn't surprised. Of course, going about like that is good. It's a way of re-energizing. At that point, you'll be meeting people, and then you'll be closing your ranks. Those that are embittered, you will try to solve the problem, even though it will be a top-dressing way of solving the problem. And then you'll be listening to people saying that our roads have not been done, the school projects have stalled, and all those things. And then you'll be giving promises here and there. You'll be meeting some interesting stakeholders, the Christian community, like going out there saying that, well, you're not going to tax the church and all those things. So if that had not really reflected, that would have been quite unscientific. But the other question that I ask myself is, okay, so if Mr. Muhammad decides to go around again, are we going to see an upward, adjustment of the percentage? That is equally quite possible. But if you read the bottom of the report that he brought, I mean, the indicators, the economy, joblessness, and then education, if you look at the percentages attached, then it means that the economy is an important indicator that will decide who becomes the next president. And that in itself shows which person that the electorate have confidence in. If you look at the confidence rating in the president, it's very, very low. 60% suggesting, or 60 or 67 suggesting we are going in the wrong path. That particular figure has been quite consistent. So, pardon me?
No, I'm listening to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, if this particular, this particular activity of Dr. Baumia had not reflected, then it will have meant that that is quite unscientific. Be that as it may, I think that this is to suggest to both sides that one should not be overconfident and the other one should not be too complacent. I think that by and large, if it is economy, if it is job, if it is education, which is going to form a certain percentage, and now understand why one of the researchers of the NPP said that, look, you cannot win these 2024 elections with free SHS. Either can you win with allowance given to the nurses and then teachers training allowances. There should be something else. So with this poll, it suggests to me that, look, that something else is something that the MPP should be more bothered about. The economy is in shambles. Those things that the current finance minister is doing and saying, sometimes I get a bit edgy, thinking that I thought that this particular person is different. Not knowing that he even feels, he portrays himself more as an economic propagandist than a real economist. You see, because what are you touting? You go to the market and you cannot even afford pepper, and you sit there and tell us that the economy has turned around. I mean, they should be realistic. And I think that this particular poll reflects the realities on the ground.
So you talk about economy, jobs, and education. These three areas. In fact, the three main drivers of the decision-making going into election 2024. And quickly, before I let you go, to the extent that we've seen this increase in Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's, as it were, respondents or people who are saying they're going to vote for him, do you see the tide turning? Any major upset going forward?
I doubt.
Why is that?
It's not just a mere doubt, it's a strong doubt.
Strong doubt based on what?
Yeah. The president himself is not doing anything good for Dr. Bawumia for him to turn around. You see, politics is not only just the indicators that we have. Little things make a lot of difference. So, like, for example, Dr. Napo, if he's so given the opportunity, the question that I ask myself is, what is he bringing on board? Does he appear like someone who can really traverse the party and go beyond the party? Does he appear as someone who can attract floating voters and undecided, the non-aligned, the neutrals? He does not. Dr. Bawumia himself has a baggage on his head. That baggage is the president's baggage. What is it called? The record of the MPP itself, the entire record of the MPP itself within the 8 years is still on his head. And so all these are some of the baggages that you will have to deal with. You see, and unfortunately, day in, day out, the economy is getting worse. Just yesterday, you are telling us that fuel prices have gone up again, and I had to go and buy fuel at 70 Ghana cedis a gallon. they will do the comparison. The ECD that you are telling us is now going to stabilize because of a certain hundreds of millions of dollars coming from the IMF, and now you've been able to negotiate, with the external creditors and so on and so forth. So we are going to have deferred payment. I mean, all of these within this 5 or 6 months getting to the election. Do you think that these things will change the mind of people? I don't think so. Many are those who have already made up their minds. And the economy, joblessness, education will be the drivers.
Dr. Jonathan Asanchoche, appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition. Jonathan Asanchoche is senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Political Science Department. Joining us here as a political analyst here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Let's do this quickly. Let's go back to the courts, because I did promise you that we're going to have a number of discussions on the back of what happened in court earlier today. Businessman Richard Jakpa, the third accused in the ongoing ambulance procurement trial, dismissed claims that he received 50% of the 2.3 million euros paid under this ambulance contract. There's many other issues that he did react to during the final cross-examination by the prosecution today. Now, thankfully, let's go on to the telephone now. We have the spokesperson for the Office of the Attorney General, the Minister of Justice, Isaac Wilberforce-Mensah, also a private legal practitioner. I thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition. Good evening to you.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Alfred, for having me. Sorry, before we go, I just want to bring a bit of clarity. The Honorable Attorney General has not told Mr. Japa that you received 50%. In fact, at the last court stage, what was established under cross-examination was that you received 28.7% of the entire contract sum, which was 2.39 million euros. And he accepted that, yes, the amount he got was in the range of 700,000 euros. So one thing we want to make clear is that this is taxpayers' money we are talking about. And 700,000 euros of taxpayers' money went to one individual, the third accused person, Mr. Richard Jakpa. So it begs the question, and this is just for him being an agent. So you ask yourself, then, if you, the agent, in pool, you got 28.7%, how much would the principal himself get? So let's just even assume that the principal got even just twice what the agent got.
And I'm sure these are some of the issues that came up during the cross-examination. And so today, you have ended your cross-examination as a prosecution of Richard Jakpa, correct?
That is so.
So what's going to happen? What's going to happen beyond today for you, the prosecution?
What's going to happen today is that, so with this particular witness, we will do our notes, and then the next agenda date is next week Thursday. But I know you're a bit pressed for time. I just want to put across that assuming that the agent, or that a principal got about 60%, it means the original price of the ambulance would just be about 10%. And therefore, Ghanaians, the ordinary taxpayer, paid about 90% more for the ambulances, and that's food for thought for all Ghanaians.
Well, no, before you go, this is what he had to say, and I want you to just hold on and listen to him, because he had a few words to describe what happened in court today per your process, the cross-examination as a prosecution, which ended today, and over the period, your cross-examination of him as a third witness. And take a listen to him, and then also we'll find out from you how this virtual cross-examination of Big C is going to be.
Day of cross-examination, and you all realize that the Attorney General and all his team, they were comprehensively demolished by the evidence adduced in court and the explanations I gave to the court. You realize that they were confused and they didn't know which next question to even ask. And they were having difficulty even adding mathematical figures together.
So that's Richard Jakpa. You were comprehensively demolished and you were confused.
I think that's extremely ludicrous from a person who was dishonorably discharged from the army, and a person who was described as
he has challenged that. You know that.
Regrettable. However, I just want to say that this issue about being comprehensively demolished, and we're starting to ask the next question amongst others. Look, this person in court today insisted, even when it was put to him several times, insisted that the ambulances came into the country in 2015. He was asked several times, said 2015. It was a letter from the Honorable Secretary which said that the ambulances came into the country originally, or the first batch came into the country in December 2014. He insisted that no, Secretary did not get it correct. In fact, he erred in saying that the ambulances came in 2014. Now, subsequently, a letter from Big C confirmed that the ambulances came indeed in 2014. Now, that's a fact. And there are several documents to show that the ambulances came in 2014. Now, what's important about this date is that the ISO certification that allows Big C to actually convert regular vehicles into ambulances were originally obtained in 2015. So it means as of 2014, when the ambulances came into the country, Big C itself, to which Richard Jakpa is as an agent, Big C itself did not have the capacity or did not have the certification to convert vehicles into ambulances. And this is taxpayers' money we are talking about.
Well, so these are some of the questions you'll be putting to Big C, because they are going to be cross-examined virtually on the 11th of July. And this is going to be cross-examined by you, the prosecution?
Yes. On Thursday, of course, they would have filed their witness statements, so they have to make their case, and then after they sort of close their defense on that particular witness, then Attorney General will cross-examine, or the Republic will cross-examine on behalf of Ghanaians, because at the end of the day, we are trying to ensure that Ghanaians or taxpayers were not taken for a ride, and that these persons are indeed innocent or guilty of the offense. Remember that we are not the arbiter. There's a very learned judge who is able to determine things.
Indeed, and whether they are guilty or otherwise will be, as you indicated, determined by the trial judge. And when you present the evidence beyond reasonable doubt and how the arguments are going. But then again, the Attorney General was asking for more time for this cross-examination, and you've been cross-examining this third accused for some time now. So, really, what else was there?
The case. I don't think we've had more than 3. I think we just did about 5 hours in general, and this is compared to the time everybody has had in this matter. This is quite minimal. So what you realize is that when the accused person, and your reporters who are in court will tell you, when this accused person is making submissions or is answering a question, one question, he goes all over the place. He can spend about 30 minutes on one question. So, of course, it only makes, and the judge made that point very clear, that it only makes sense and it's only fair that the Attorney General gets a bit more time. And the Attorney General has finished his cross-examination of the witness.
Wilberforce, appreciate your time, and thank you very much. July 11th, we'll be in court.
Alfred.
Great. And that is the spokesperson for the Office of the Attorney General, Isaac Wilberforce Mensah, there.
Some other issues, and over 300 residents of Achiase in the eastern region have reported cases of malaria symptoms suspected to be associated with an insect invasion in the region. The Ghana Health Service is yet to determine the epidemiology of these insects, but has confirmed a rise in malaria cases and skin abrasions among residents of the affected districts. Listen to a district chief executive of Achiase, Richmond Kofi Amponsa, speaking to journalists earlier about this.
Atuya district here, Achiase district, Bloom South, Odan, of one side you be, and the district part of the district they are making. And maybe Abba, Informa, Utia Tuntum, almost a son, I'm going to tune the Peter. Now, Manoya ya. Now, about who be or cow no coffee, no wine will actually cross with the pair. No, my little Biacho. And Maria may buy a different. Utia, yes, about your flu. Only you like I say, Biacho, Saturday, you really baby coach. Now, for the past 2 weeks, the Nipa over 300 and on the district, watch you. It's the district director, Akasa, my report.
The DC for Achiase in the eastern region.
We'll go for the business news now after this quick break, and Bismarck Awusa is standing by with the latest in the world of business.
The luckiest Luck is everywhere, for everyone, yeah. The luckiest. Luck is everywhere, for everyone, yeah.
Doctors,
nurses,
barbers,
drivers,
bouncers,
friends,
teachers,
bankers. You could be the luckiest. You could be the luckiest.
East, west, north, south, Opiametu.
You could be the luckiest. You could be the luckiest.
Accra to Paga.
Let's go. The luckiest. Luck is everywhere, for everyone, yeah. The luckiest. Luck is everywhere, for everyone, yeah.
Doctors,
nurses,
barbers,
drivers,
bouncers,
friends,
teachers,
bankers. The luckiest. You could be the luckiest.
Early every weekday because of you, to keep you on top of your game. Yeah!
You are at the center of our universe. That's why we make it a duty to serve you only the freshest, hottest news and entertainment. When you want it, where you want it.
Good morning, Ghana, Africa, and the rest of the wonderful world. Welcome to Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Start your day well informed. Start with us on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Catch the all-new Sunrise Morning Show on 3FM 92.7 with me, Johnny Hughes, Helen Apiambofo. Weekdays from 5:55 a.m. to 10 a.m. only on 3FM 92.7.
3FM, your urban lifestyle radio.
Hello, good evening. It's time now for the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Ausa. Coming up tonight, Ministry of Finance assures fiscal discipline ahead of 2024 general elections. We'll hear from a Deputy Minister. Thanks for your company. Now to our very first story, the Ministry of Finance has assured it will ensure government exercise fiscal discipline against budget overruns in the last 2 quarters of the year ahead of 2024 general elections. There have been public concerns over the possibility of government overspending to derail the economic gains that has been made from the ongoing IMF program. However, Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Abena Ose-Asari, speaking on behalf of the Minister, Dr. Muhammad Amin Adam, at the inaugural quarterly economic roundtable organized by the Finance Ministry and University of Ghana, assured the ministry is poised to maintain fiscal discipline.
The foundation of macroeconomic stability is fiscal discipline. We are committed to implementing stringent fiscal policies to reduce deficits and manage the public debt sustainably. We are also committed to transparency in public finance management, fully implementing the PFM Act and enhancing accountability mechanisms to ensure the efficient and effective use of public funds. There's always a high demand in election years for government to overspend, and we are committed to rationalizing and containing expenditures, especially in the 3rd and 4th quarters, to ensure that unbudgeted related expenditures are kept to the barest minimum or eliminated. A stable financial sector is very important for overall economic stability. We are therefore committed to implementing regulatory reforms to bolster the resilience of our financial institutions, ensuring the soundness of banks and other financial institutions will protect savings, promote investment, and support sustainable economic growth.
You heard Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Abena Osei-Asare, speaking on behalf of the Minister, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam. Meanwhile, Director of Institute of Economic, Social and Statistical Research, ISE, Professor Peter Korte, addressing the media at the same program, called for restructuring of government wage bill by cutting down employment to the government sector.
Because we finance the deficit through borrowing, and that is where the problem is. So how do you solve your deficit? By increasing revenue, domestic revenue mobilization. We are not saying we should increase taxes, but rather be more efficient in our tax collection efforts so that we're able to rake in more revenue. Digitalization has been started, but we can do a bit more in trying to use online systems, in trying to minimize human interface so that we can be more efficient in our tax collection and try to reduce corruption and the leakages within revenue mobilization system. Then expenditure. Some expenditures can be rationalized. We have to look at procurement of goods and services, and even wages and salaries. Are we paying the right number of people, or we need to rationalize and offload some to the private sector? But look at government wage bill, it's huge, about 50% of total revenue. Yet the same people say they are underpaid.
And that was Director of Institute of Economic, Social and Statistical Research, ISE, Professor Peter Korte. Now, economist and country director of the International Growth Center, Dr. Ni Kwekusowa, is urging managers of the economy to ensure efficiency in the country's tax collection. He argues that Ghanaians are already overburdened with existing taxes, and introducing new ones as a way of enhancing revenue mobilization could be detrimental. His call comes on the back of the Ministry of Finance's quest to restore economic stability through revenue maximization.
So, if you ask me to give you a hint as to what can be done about revenue, I would say improve the efficiency in collection of revenue. Don't add one single tax more. It becomes a burden to the Ghanaian. There are too many taxes in the system. At the last count for a particular establishment which I was looking at, they had about 17 taxes and levies on their list. Not only is the central government collecting from you, the municipals are collecting from you, police service is coming to collect a levy from you, fire service is doing the same, and all the time when they come, they give you some small certificate that we've collected. That is it.
Economist and country director of International Growth Center, Dr. Ni Kwekusowa there. And that will be all for the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Awusa. For more business stories, please log on to 3news.com. Blile Shen is here with the Sports Douche Day.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen. Let's start off from the local side. In Paris 2024 Olympics, Ghana will have 2 representatives in swimming this year by virtue of the World Aquatics Wildcard structure. And this year, it will be Joselle Mensah and Harry Stacey who will represent the country at the Olympic Games in Paris. Alfred Sulabi has more in this report.
Ghana will have 2 reps in swimming again this year by virtue of World Aquatics Wildcard structure. This year, it will be Joselle Mensah and Harry Stacey who will represent their country at the Olympic Games in Paris. Joselle Mensah joined Team Ghana just before the African Games, and albeit not winning a medal, she swam some really good times at the Borteman Aquatic Center. She has had a good year, and the Olympic Games is the cherry on top of what has been a big season for her. The young swimmer is thrilled to have grabbed a ticket to Paris.
Obviously very tough for every athlete. You always aspire to get better. You always aspire to kind of develop new techniques and become even better at your own events. So it was definitely a lot of dedication and a lot of hard work in the sense of training and also trusting myself and my coaches.
At every Olympic Games, World Aquatics hands over wildcards to swimmers from countries that find it difficult to make the qualifying time. With Ghana being one of such countries, we get 2 slots. 2 slots for the country's best swimmers who have racked up the most number of points. Being a universality slot, one person can only make a showing with the wildcard twice. That is why Abeku Jackson would not be at the Olympic Games this term. In his place is Harry Stacey. The young swimmer, who took the African Games by storm, is also looking to make a mark at the world stage, and the Olympic Games is the biggest platform for that. Stacey says this is the pinnacle of his fledgling swimming career.
You start swimming and you're just getting used to the sport. You don't really know what you're doing with it. You're just learning how to swim. But then after a while, you start competing and you start hearing the word Olympics and World Championships and stuff like this. And then it's like, oh, so this is the end goal, to get to that level. And yeah, to finally reach the pinnacle of swimming, I mean, it's surreal. It hasn't really sunk in yet. But yeah, I'm really happy about it.
Ghana began swimming at the Olympic Games in 2016 when Abeku Jackson and Kaya Forson made it to Rio de Janeiro. Stacey and Mensah will have to go past the first round to make history for Ghana at the Olympic Games in Paris.
That was a report there by Yao Ofosulabi. Let's move on to football, where South African club Black Leopards have officially confirmed the appointment of former Ghana assistant coach Maxwell Konedu on a 3-year deal. Now, Konedu, who is 51 years of age, joins from Nswatreman FC in the Ghana Premier League, where he won the MTN FA Cup and finished 4th at the end of the 2023-24 campaign. Leopards chairman Fidela revealed that the club had reached an agreement with Konedu ahead of the 2024-25 campaign. He said, and quote, "Yes, it's true. We can confirm that we've reached an agreement with Maxwell Konedu," as quoted by IDSKI Times in South Africa. Let's move on to the Euros there, where the Netherlands have booked up a place in the quarterfinals of the European Championship after beating Romania by 3-0. 2 goals from Malin and Cody Gakpo were enough to send the Orange a step closer to the ultimate. Now, the final round of 16 game will be played between Austria and Turkey at 7 p.m. tonight. But before I do go, let's move on to tennis, where Novak Djokovic won his game in the Wimbledon earlier today, making it his 19th time he's won a game in the first round of Wimbledon. Here are some other key results in the Wimbledon so far. Rublev lost to Komesana. He lost by 3-1 to Komesana in the Wimbledon. And of course, Djokovic won by 3 straight sets against Kopriva in the Wimbledon as well. Murray will not play. Tsitsipas is currently playing against Daniel of Japan, and he's currently leading by 2-0. Now, Hogarun also beats Kwon, who is from South Korea, by 3-0 as well. And we'll give you further updates in our daily tennis wrap, which will come off at 7:40 a.m. tomorrow on 3FM 92.7. So do stay tuned for our daily wrap in tennis when it comes to Wimbledon. That brings an end to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Billy Shen, and of course Beatrice and the rest of the team are on standby with more.
Thank you very much, Billy Shen, for bringing us the latest in the world of sports. And you're still here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We'll be bringing you Campaign Trail very shortly, but ahead of that, the ad hoc committee set up to investigate the leaked tape to oust the Inspector General of Police is expected to present its report on the floor of Parliament today. Last year, Parliament set up a committee to investigate the content of a leaked tape which captured the voice of COP Alex George Mensah, Superintendent George Asare, and Superintendent Emmanuel Jedi, together with former regional chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Bugri Nabu, planning to remove the RGP, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare, from office. There has been a purported report emanating from the committee and signed by all the members except the chairman, Samuel Atachia. The report prescribed punishment for COP Alex Mensah, who is now retired, and the two others. But speaking in an interview with Johnny Hughes on 3FM Sunrise Show today, COP Alex Mensah said that as a retired police officer, he is not bound by the police service regulations anymore.
If they think I've committed a crime, they should send me to court.
According to the committee, you misconducted yourself. You were partisan instead of being neutral.
I misconducted myself, and who has proved it?
Well, the committee here, in the paragraph I read to you, said that your action, together with the two superintendents of police and Chief Bugri Nabu, were purely partisan and were unprofessional.
The committee, those people who signed it, they don't know what they are talking about.
That's a very serious thing to do. The clerk of the committee has also signed.
What is serious? I'm telling you, they don't know what they are talking about. They didn't know what they are talking about. It's so surprising.
Would you be
surprised? They don't know what they are talking about.
Would you be surprised if the president, Akufo-Addo, decides to act on what the committee is recommending and strips you off your benefits?
Committee, has this report been filed at the main parliament? Has the parliament discussed it? Have they approved that committee's recommendations? Have they done that?
Well, they are yet to do that.
Have they done that?
They have not, but they are impressing upon
so we
Parliament.
Don't need to discuss this. It's a useless thing that is just circulating. It's a leaked report. It's not a report.
92.7.
Well, let the report be filed at the main parliament. Let them discuss and come out.
So this report,
it's a proper report.
So
and that's where we will talk about it.
As he said. So this
Don't
report.
waste our time on this.
Sir, this report is before Parliament officially. Members of Parliament have it. All right, and I doubt that members of parliament will be holding a fake document and be circulating.
Have they told you that they have it?
Yes.
Have you spoken to the speaker?
I don't need to speak to the speaker to know
and
that
he says it has been laid before him. Have they discussed it at the parliament? Has the parliament approved of this report?
You have COP Alex Mensah, the man at the center of this probe into the leaked tape purporting to be planning the removal of the Inspector General of Police, George Akufo-Dampare. We're joined by security analyst Dr. Adam Buna. Good evening to you, Doc. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Let me first get your preliminary comment on these statements from COP Alex Mensah.
Well, what I can say is that, unfortunately, since this leaked tape came out, he has not handled himself well in the public domain. He has, he looks snobbish. He looks like someone who probably thinks, you have to probably would have taken some substance to sometimes make some of the statements he makes. If you heard him, for him to say that the documents that have been presented to the 275 members of parliament is a useless document, and the 5 members of parliament, including a cabinet minister who signed this document, they don't know what they are doing. They don't know their work. That's an indictment on Parliament. If this is not contemptuous if it's not contempt of Parliament, then I don't know what it is. Because then Johnny Hughes asked him whether he's aware it's being distributed. And he asked Johnny, and Johnny said yes. And so for him to go on and on and on and say, has it been discussed? Parliament discussing it does not mean that, what we have is not a public document. All of us, our MPs have it. And so for him to rubbish the documents, for me, I find that to be, undermining the authority.
You have just 1 minute remaining.
We'll try and reconnect to Dr. Adam Buna, who is a security analyst, to give us more as regards what he thinks regarding this very case and the report that is yet to be laid on the floor of Parliament. You're still here on Hot Edition on 3FM. And we'll try and connect to Adam Buna to conclude on his thoughts. But ahead of that, the Civil and Local Government Staff Association has declared a nationwide strike from tomorrow, July 3, despite a summon by the National Labour Commission. This means that all local government workers will lay down their tools from tomorrow and not work at their respective agencies. At a news conference in Accra, the Executive Secretary of CLOCSAC, Isaac Bampoado, said that the government has failed to implement a new salary structure for civil servants. We'll bring you some more on that later. Still on Labour, the forum comprising public sector unions has called for termination of the 60% shares of the SNIT hotels, despite calls by President Akufo-Addo to review the sale agreement. At a news conference in Accra, the leadership of the forum rather proposed that SNIT should set up a new management to revive the alien hotels instead of selling them. Chairman of the forum, Isaac Bampoado, emphasized that after studying the transactional agreement, there was lack of transparency. He again said that the transactional agreement was also suggested to SNIT that Rock City Hotel, owned by Brian Champon, does not have the financial capacity to procure the hotels. Remember that last week, President Akufo-Addo, after a meeting with organized labor SNIT and the board, directed that the party should relook at the sale agreement. But the forum has insisted that the government should have it terminated. And you're still here on Hot Edition on 3FM and 92.7. Let's bring in Seth Ablusu, who is a labor expert, to talk to us his views about this latest strike declared by Clocksa. Good evening to you, sir. If you can hear us, thank you for joining us. We seem to have lost him there. And that'll be it for Hot Edition here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. I did this with Alfred Ocansey. Thank you very much for joining us. Log on to 3news.com for more news. Have a good evening.